Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, at least 5 people killed as multiple explosions rock parts of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. A day after an attack on his convoy in Baga, Governor Zulum blames the army command structure for gaps in counter-terrorism efforts. The army promises thorough investigation into the incident. President Buhari felicitates with Muslims at Eid al-Kabir as he commends Nigerians for their sacrifices in the face of the hardship caused by COVID-19 restrictions. And U.S. President Donald Trump suggests postponement of November's presidential election. Claims increased postal voting could lead to electoral fraud. Plus, business, sports, news from Abuja and the FCT, and later from our London studios. On business news tonight, Royal Dutch Shell winds down investment in Nigerian oil prospecting license 245, currently at the center of an ongoing corruption case in Italy.
On sports news tonight, Swiss prosecutors launch criminal proceedings against FIFA President Gianni Infantino.
And from Abuja, some travelers abandon COVID-19 guidelines as they prepare for the Eid al-Kabir celebrations in the nation's capital.
Once more, security dominates the news today, with Borno State coming under spotlight following bomb explosions in the state capital, as well as the state governor's outburst after yesterday's attack on his convoy. And of course, the situation in Kaduna remains a subject of discussion with recent cases of attacks in communities there. But first, in the Borno state capital, Maiduguri, where at least 5 people have been killed following multiple explosions today. Explosions occurred around the custom area, a densely populated part of the town. The Borno State Commissioner of Police, Muhammad Ndatsu, confirmed the casualty figure, while the GOC 7 Division Brigadier General Khalifa Ibrahim has also visited the scene for an on-the-spot assessment. It was gathered that the explosives were not person-borne. One of them reportedly landed in a shop in the commercial area, killing a furniture maker and his son. Another explosive landed in a house in Gwange area, killing a child, while 2 other people were struck in a third location. Officials of the State Emergency Management Agency say they have evacuated the bodies of the victims. Now, it's not certain if the attack was carried out by Boko Haram terrorists who are known to have been behind such in the state, killing thousands of people in the process. The bomb blasts in Maiduguri come a day after the convoy of the state governor, Babagana Zulum, came under attack in Baga, and the governor has been confronted the Nigerian military or the army over the incident. He expressed his disappointment at the inability of the military to rid Baga and its environs of insurgents, accusing the Nigerian army of sabotaging government's counter-terrorism and rebuilding efforts. The governor vowed to encourage people to resort to self-defense if the military is incapable of protecting them.
We have a total number of about 1,181 soldiers in Baga. So I think the problem is in the command and control structures that has to be looked into. And then I cannot end of my interview without clearly stating what has happened yesterday. As far as I'm concerned, there's no Boko Haram inside the town yesterday. There was a very serious shootings by the Nigerian armed forces who are residing in Baga. That also compares. And the situation is very embarrassing. So I think we shall give them some sufficient time, because Baga is very important. The source of the lecture provides employment opportunities to not fewer than 10 million people who are residing in the northeast, while some are even coming from the far northwest. So I see no reason why they should be left there if they cannot occupy Baga town, which is very important. We shall give them some sufficient time. If it is not possible, I think we shall organize the population, the community, to take destiny into their own hands so that we can go and occupy.
The Nigerian army has been given its own account of the circumstances surrounding the attack on the Borno State Governor's convoy in Baga yesterday. The acting director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sagir Musa, explains in a statement that the unfortunate incident occurred shortly after the governor and his entourage departed the 19th Brigade at the Nigerian Army's super camp in Baga, where the governor was said to have been briefed on the security situation in the area. According to the Army spokesperson, details of the attack are still sketchy, while investigations have commenced to unravel the circumstances that led to the incident and track down the culprits. He explains that the attack was an isolated one occurring in the territory where, according to him, normalcy has since been restored, with socio-economic activities picking up. Away from security matters to politics, the former national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Comrade Adams Oshomole, is appealing to the people of Essen Land in Edo Central Senatorial District to use their vote to illustrate that the state governor, Godwin Obaseki, has failed to keep his campaign promise of developing the area. Comrade Oshomole was speaking at a campaign rally for the Edo APC governorship candidate in Irua, Eastern Central Local Government of the state. Meanwhile, the Director General of the Ize Yamu Campaign Organization, General Cecil Esekaigbe, says the party will stick to an issue-based campaign for the September governorship election.
The Edo APC governorship campaign rally is in Irua, Eastern Central Local Government area of Edo State, where the former APC national chairman, Adams Oshomole, and the Director General of the Ize Yamu Campaign Organization, General Cecil Esekaigbe, leading other party chieftains. The first point of call is the palace of the traditional ruler, the Onoje of Irua. The APC is here to seek his royal blessings.
We are marked the Usugbenu Road, we are marked all those schools, we did not earmark. We didn't do any MOU to build those schools. All we needed to do was to do the feasibility study, carry out the evaluation, award the contract, and ensure that it is done.
Each and people that are ready to vote for him. In our parable, in English, people say, because of you. If because of this very boy, we are going to vote for whoever you put together.
From the palace, the train moves to another location within the town. At this gathering, the APC leaders again utilize the opportunity to tell the people why Pastor Ize Yamu and Malam Gani Audu are the candidates to beat in the upcoming governorship election.
If I ask you, have these people built new school? The only road they were doing at Tekoma, I already paid half of it before I left government. I drove on that road. And it's supposed to have limit on both sides. And it's supposed to be wider.
General Esekaigbe gives an insight into the APC's campaign strategy.
It's only when you don't have anything to offer that you continue to insult people. We are going to base it on issues. Our campaign is going to be based on issues. And I will ask my Edo people, are your lives better than the one they were 4 years ago? The simple question answer is no.
As the curtains draws, the APC is resolute in its belief that its track record, strategy and candidate will swing the votes favorably on the day.
Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party is vowing not to allow anything called federal might to prevail in the September 19 governorship election in the state. This came to the fore as some leaders of the party gathered in Benin City for a meeting where they noted that Governor Godwin Obasaki's achievements in the last 4 years would be their selling point during the campaigns.
The chairman of the People's Democratic Party PDP Governors Forum, Aminu Tambuwal, is among party leaders gathered inside the banquet hall of the government house in Benin City, the Edo state capital.
Our great leaders.
The PDP is preparing to tour the 192 wards of Edo State in a bid to woo the electorate as the September 19 governorship election draws near. This is the first stakeholders meeting since receiving Governor Godwin Obasaki from the All Progressives Congress, APC. For the campaign team, marketing Governor Godwin Obasaki to the people will be an easy task because of his good performance in office so far.
Everything will be done in the course of this tour to let Edo people see the progress the governor has made in his first tenure, and also to give a projection of what he's going to do after his re-election as the governor of this state.
The PDP had lost to the All Progressives Congress in the last governorship election in Edo State. Mr. Obasaki, having now joined the party, says his move will be the game changer.
PDP has won every national election in this state. True or false? APC has only won the last 4 state elections. Who is APC now? APC is us here. So if 80% of APC has now joined 100% of PDP, what is left?
According to the Sokoto state governor, coming up against the federal government in an election is never easy. Alhaji Tambuwal believes his own success story should motivate the Edo PDP.
There is nothing like federal might. I can tell you that one. If my colleague from Rivers is here, he would have told you. Akwa Ibom, Benue. So don't let anybody come and instill any fear into your minds. It's just propaganda. You didn't know God, you didn't know people. What else are you asking for?
The event then goes into a closed-door session where tactics and roles for the campaigns are expected to be decided, and the meeting closed to non-members.
In other news, the suspended acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ibrahim Magus, has given a detailed response on the defense of the petitions and allegations leveled against him. Mr. Magus, in his defense documents cited by Channels Television, denies all allegations as untrue and calculated to tarnish his image and his name. He insists that not a dime of the recovered funds was fraudulently converted for his personal use, and he's challenging his accuser to produce evidence of such fraudulent conversion. Mr. Magus went further to disagree on the arguments of the powers of his office as chairman of the EFCC to initiate criminal prosecution. Part of the document, his defense document that is, reads, "The power to prosecute cases was not what I can arrogate to myself. Before I became the AG, chairman of the commission, it has constantly exercised its statutory power to institute criminal charges where prima facie evidence is made out without seeking for the consent of the AGF." Mr. Magus has been appearing before the Presidential Probe Panel investigating allegations of gross misconduct and activities of the EFCC under his watch. In part 2, after the break, we'll continue with our focus on security. We'll be speaking with the Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai on the situation in his state. Stay with us. Welcome Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. At least 5 people killed as multiple explosions rock parts of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. A day after an attack on his convoy in Baga, Governor Zulum blames Army command structure for gaps in counter-terrorism efforts. Army promises thorough investigation into the incident. President Buhari felicitates with Muslims at Eid al-Kabir as he commends Nigerians for their sacrifice in the face of the hardship caused by COVID-19 restrictions. And U.S. President Donald Trump suggests delay of November's presidential election, claims increased postal voting could lead to electoral fraud. Plus business, sports, news from Abuja, the FCT, and later from our studios in London. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. In less than an hour, precisely 11 p.m., the 2020 elections of the Nigerian Bar Association, the NBA, will come to a close. Figures from the live monitoring election portal as at 9:33 p.m. puts the former chairman of the NBA section on business law, Mr. Olumide Akpata, in the lead with 9,518 votes out of a total of 17,617 ballots submitted, representing 54.2% of the votes. His closest rival, Dr. Babatunde Ajibade, has so far scored 4,174 votes, representing 23.8% of the votes, while Mr. Dele Additional is coming third with a score of 3,868 votes, representing 22.0% of the votes. A total number of 29,635 legal practitioners were cleared to vote in the elections. In the early reactions trailing the results, Mr. Dele Additional said the Electoral Committee of the NBA asked them to cancel the elections, saying it is fraught with irregularities. In a letter to the electoral chairman, Mr. Tawo, dated 30th July 2020, and personally signed by him, Ms. Additional stated that the voters' list contained grave errors of omission and commission. Some errors, he pointed out, includes inflation of the list of NBA branches, names of lawyers under the subheading International Diaspora, in clear violation of the provisions of the NBA Constitution, and deletion of names of lawyers from the final list. He's asked the electoral body to cancel what he calls this sham election. In his words, it is needless to say that if the process is bad, the product cannot be good. As at the time of filing this report, Mr. Akpata and Mr. Ajibade were yet to react. The Electoral Committee has, however, told Channels Television's judiciary correspondent, Shola Shoyele, that the results will be announced immediately after the polls close at 11 p.m. We'll keep you updated. Yes, Linda Kigbe now with more on the news at 10. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Amarachi. Welcome to Abuja. The president is calling on Nigerians to continue to exercise patience and understanding over the inconveniences they are experiencing due to measures taken to contain the spread of COVID-19. President Buhari's appeal is contained in his message to Muslims across Nigeria on the occasion of the Eid al-Kabir celebration. He admitted that the outbreak of coronavirus has had devastating adverse impacts on citizens' social, economic and spiritual lives, making it difficult for people to gather in large numbers in places of worship, as was the practice before. In the words of the president, every measure that has been introduced to contain the disease may have its unintended consequences on the daily lives of our people. And I therefore call on Muslims and other faithful to continue to show more understanding with the government as we take corrective steps to protect our people through social distancing. The president also commends Muslims and Christians for abiding by the COVID-19 guidelines for the good of society, given the assurance that the government will continue to provide economic reliefs to minimize the people's hardship. While wishing Muslims a happy celebration, President Buhari asked worshippers not to forget the symbolic significance of the sacrifices of Eid al-Kabir. He challenged Muslims to imbibe the noble virtues of the great prophets and put their teachings into practice while putting the fear of God in their daily activities in order to make Nigeria better. He also appealed for more support from citizens as his administration works to root out corruption in the country, stating that the efforts in that regard have brought changes in the country. Meanwhile, there is a low turnout of passengers traveling from some motor parks and the train stations in Abuja to other parts of the country for the Eid al-Kabir celebration. Channels Television's crew visited the Idu rail station and the popular Utako motor park in Abuja and saw a less number of passengers compared with the previous festive periods. There is also a strict enforcement of the COVID-19 safety protocols by officials of the Nigeria Railway Corporation.
The Otako Motor Park and the Idu railway station are popular exit points for people traveling out of Abuja, especially during the holiday seasons. It does appear, however, that the outbreak of COVID-19 is affecting the number of travelers who use these exit points during this year's Eid al-Kabir holiday. Passengers trickling in and out of the Utako Motor Park and the Idu railway station in Abuja. Not much attention is paid to the COVID-19 safety protocols at this motor park. The situation is, however, different at the Idu railway station as officials try to enforce strict compliance with the COVID-19 safety protocols.
COVID-19 is real, and most passengers this morning know that fact. Even though we cannot say all really complied, but one thing we do is to make them realize how important to be here to observe all the COVID-19 protocol that we have laid down for our passengers as soon as you arrive at the train station. And there is a high level of compliance I have observed this morning.
The sitting and boarding arrangement at this terminal allow physical distancing, which also comes with a cost. But the fare alone is not what some passengers consider when choosing a means of transportation.
Most of us follow the train because of the perceived safety associated with it compared to going by road because of all these incidences that are happening. So I think it's comfortable, and considering also the dynamics that COVID-19 now added to the whole experience, you could see that the seat has been spaced, like just me sitting here. And where ordinarily 3 people are sitting, we have 2 people now. So it's okay. The experience is okay.
The train management as an railway corporation are doing their best, especially in this COVID-19 matter. When you see the social distance and a lot of security got here. So it's very impressive.
Transportation fare from Abuja to Kaduna by rail was increased by almost 100% as the government resumed rail operations on Wednesday, July the 29th. COVID-19 is a viral disease that is easily spread from person to person. Hence, it is important that people comply with the health safety protocols as they travel for the holiday.
Security is also a concern at this time, and the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, is asking Nigerians to voluntarily obey the ban on mass socio-religious gatherings as they celebrate Eid al-Kabir. In a statement, the police chief directed commissioners of police in all the states and the FCT to intensify confidence-building patrols in all parts of the country, particularly on major highways and around critical national infrastructure. The IGP is assuring Nigerians of adequate security during the celebrations, while calling on citizens to cooperate with the police, noting that the measures have become imperative due to the rampaging COVID-19 pandemic. And from the northeast, the World Health Organization, in collaboration with the Yobe state government, is appealing to survivors of the coronavirus to take the campaign of the disease to communities so as to reduce its transmission. WHO program manager for the region, Dr. Collins Owili, made the call in Damaturu, the state capital, while celebrating the patients who recovered from the disease in Yobe state.
Since the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country, the World Health Organization and other partner agencies have continued to support the federal government by providing the vulnerable population in the northeastern region with information on how to combat the disease. So far, Yobe State has a record of 66 confirmed cases, 54 discharge cases, and 8 deaths. To reach communities in the state, the WHO and the Yobe state government have embarked on a sensitization campaign on the prevention and control of the disease. Part of their strategy includes the Heroes campaign recognized to celebrate COVID-19 survivors.
We are here with the State Ministry of Health to celebrate the people of Yobe State and the people who got infected, they recovered, and they have been discharged from the isolation center. We are here to celebrate with the state government because they have recorded remarkable achievements and milestones in the COVID-19 control efforts.
Some of the survivors share their experiences as an approach to curb the stigma associated with the disease.
I felt bad when I contracted the disease. I thought my life had come to an end. But when I received counseling, my hope was rekindled. I was encouraged by health workers.
When they saw me outside, they ran away. But I told them that, look, this is way. There's no way you run from me. I'm okay, I'm treated, and I cannot infect you. But what we are going to be doing is that we should follow the preventive measures that was outlined by the NCDC.
COVID-19 is one of the diseases that characterized with stigma. People don't want to associate with a victim or someone who has suffered from COVID-19. So for people to come out to give testimony, I think it deserves to be celebrated.
The World Health Organization had earlier donated education materials and conducted a training for health workers as part of its ongoing response to the COVID-19 outbreak in northeastern Nigeria.
When the news returns, we have more on COVID-19, plus Royal Dutch Shell writes down investment in Nigerian oil prospecting license 245, currently at the center of ongoing corruption case in Italy. That's in business news. Join us again.
Welcome back. More Nigerians stranded in other countries following the COVID-19 pandemic continue to arrive in the country. The latest are 102 citizens who arrived in Abuja today from Morocco aboard Air Maroc from Casablanca. According to the Nigeria Diaspora Commission in its Twitter handle, all the evacuees tested negative before their arrival and would proceed on a 14-day self-isolation as mandated by the NCDC and the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. Their return comes a day after 158 Nigerians stranded in Niger Republic were also evacuated to the country. The parents of 4 premature babies receiving special care at Latifa Hospital, having thrown a lifeline by the Crown Prince of Dubai, after he pledged to cover their medical fees. 32-year-old Tijani Abdul Karim and his wife Suliat faced costs of about 800,000 dirhams after she gave birth to quadruplets on July 1st following a cesarean section, but had no health insurance after her hospital cleaning contract ended. Those fees have now been covered by Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed, leaving the family overjoyed. Back home in Nigeria, heavily armed security operatives comprising the Army, Police, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps today patrolled major roads and communities in 4 troubled local government areas of Kaduna State. It was a show of force aimed at displaying their readiness to confront criminal elements that have been attacking residents of the areas recently. The troops are to be deployed to all flashpoints and vulnerable communities where the attacks took place recently.
The 4 local government areas of Jamal, Kauru, Kaura and Zongon Kataf in southern Kaduna have been flashpoints of a mixed bag of attacks in recent days. Loss of lives, destruction of property which has left people homeless is the aftermath of the conflict. With a 24-hour curfew in place, heavily armed joint security operatives patrol major roads and communities, including Kafanchan, in the 4 volatile local government areas in a show of force to display their determination to combat criminal elements attacking residents.
Your cooperation is needed. You have to be disciplined. As you are going out, nobody should be harassed. No civilian should be harassed. We'll go as a team. I will come back as a team. Is that clear?
Yes, sir! Hello, officers! Hello! Hey!
The troops in company of the Commissioner for Internal Security proceed on a courtesy visit on the traditional institution to get a buy-in of the local authority.
I always say that God who made us forgives us, and we can't forgive each other. What type of people are we? We should be forgiving. Even if I'm wrong, and you tell me you are sorry, no more that time.
For the state government, the exercise is a demonstration of the government's resolve to protect lives and property in southern Kaduna.
It is a confidence-building exercise to assure residents of the general area that security agencies are working around the clock. On the other hand, it is to also seek for support from members of the general public, because information is key, information is vital. And to also reiterate the position of Kaduna State government. As far as Kaduna State government is concerned, issue of security is our priority, because security is backbone of everything.
The security agencies are optimistic that with the deployment of more troops to the troubled areas and the willingness of the parties involved to recourse to peace, the end of the current crisis may be in sight.
The security situation in Kaduna State has been quite worrying. As a while back, I spoke to the state governor, Governor Nasir El-Rufai, on the situation there. So we have Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State joining us now on the news at 10. Governor, good evening, and thank you for making time to speak with us on the news. Despite efforts by your government in conjunction with federal authorities to stop these attacks, they have continued. Why is it so challenging, this issue in Kaduna State?
I think the issue is not just in Kaduna State. We have security challenges all across the northwest and northeast. But I think what makes Kaduna State's situation unique and headline-grabbing is because of the injection of ethnic, religious connotations to the attacks and the clashes between the various ethnic groups. Kaduna State has 54 different ethnic groups, about 10% of Nigeria's total. It's a very diverse state, and it has had a long history of ethno-religious intolerance. So every criminal situation in Kaduna is given political, religious, and ethnic connotations, unfortunately. And thus, that complicates matters. That makes things more difficult to resolve because religion, ethnicity, and politics are identity issues. They are very emotive, and people tend to lose their calm and their heads in situations like this. That's what complicates the situation.
And just yesterday, Governor, some federal lawmakers from southern Kaduna alleged that more attacks are being planned for after the Salah celebration. How are you responding to this?
I think they should provide this kind of useful intelligence to the security agencies. Frankly, I think the elected officials from the southern part of the state have been quite irresponsible in not taking leadership position. They have allowed non-state actors and people living in Port Harcourt and Lagos to lead the narrative on the crisis there. And they have left the people that live there to suffer, and they only make press statements that are mostly not factual and, in my humble opinion, totally irresponsible. They also have a tendency to have two kinds of conversations. There are things they tell us in private when we have official meetings, and then when they go to the media, they say something else. If the lawmakers from Kaduna State, from southern Kaduna, have any information about impending attacks, they should make that available to the security agencies very quietly so that the security agencies can plan and apprehend the attackers rather than go on media. I think it is quite irresponsible and showing lack of leadership, frankly.
And there are some people, especially from that area, who are pointing fingers at attempts at land grabbing. What do you say, what would you say is the root cause or the causes of these attacks?
Frankly, I think that the main cause of the attacks these days is banditry. This is something that afflicts the entire Northwest, from Sokoto to Zamfara to Katsina and Kaduna and so on. However, when it comes to southern Kaduna, as I said, it's given a completely different interpretation. There is nothing like land grabbing because no one, not one person, can give an instance of any community that has been displaced and totally occupied by these bandits. Because these bandits, if we know where they are, whenever we see them from the air using our drones and the Nigeria Air Force, we get the army on the ground and the Air Force to attack them. We are killing them every single day. So if anyone has any evidence, any example of a single community that has been displaced by bandits and occupied by the bandits, they should mention the name and the location, not to start making statements like land grabbing. What land grabbing? Kaduna State has 46,000 square kilometers of land. There is enough land for everyone if people are willing to embrace peace and live in peace with one another. We're a diverse state. We cannot be purely one ethnic group, unlike other states. And we have to just learn to live with one another and resolve our disputes by referring them to the law enforcement agencies, the authorities, and the courts, not to take the law into our own hands. This is what is complicating the situation in southern Kaduna.
That was Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State. Access to quality and affordable medical face masks has been a challenge since the outbreak of COVID-19. This has forced the option of improvised masks and heavy reliance on imported ones. OK medical face mask produced by Transgreen Nigeria Limited says it's found a solution to this rather simple but complicated problem for some.
The public health crisis and socio-economic challenges posed by COVID-19 are begging for solutions, and this initiative by Transgreen Nigeria Limited is considered one worth celebrating. The OK face mask is the first Nigerian certified high-quality medical-graded face mask produced according to the WHO standard.
But we use mask also in our CD manufacturing for our staff. And when we went to the market to buy the mask, and we discovered that the price went to 350 naira per mask. Something that we were buying under 40 naira or 50 naira before the COVID. So I began to ask questions. And then I discovered that there was no face mask manufacturing plant in the whole of Nigeria.
The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, representatives of regulatory agencies and other key players are here to celebrate this win as the country continues to fight the virus. The governor says he is emotionally attached to the solution this company is providing.
You know, I've sent my people here twice. It's because we couldn't take that risk faster than you. And so they were here because we had said to ourselves as a state government that we're not in business for business, but we can be an enabler for people to even go into this kind of business. So we've identified one or two people and said, you know what, let us start producing PPEs. Let us start producing face masks and everything. But they're all very scared. I said, okay, we as a government, we will support you.
There's a vacuum, and the team here at Transgreen Nigeria Limited recognizes and are closing that gap. With the capacity to produce up to 240,000 masks daily, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, says is impressed in his goodwill message.
Cyprian and his team took up the challenge. They established a new company called Transgreen Nigeria Limited for the manufacture of medical face masks. This feat was achieved within 3 months.
Okay, so we are going to deliver.
The company donated thousands of masks to the Lagos State government and the NCDC. The state government also made an initial order of 250,000 units of the mask with a promise to continue supporting solution-based businesses, making deliberate efforts at creating an enabling environment for them to thrive.
Let's check in all of the day's business stories. Here's Bisi Adebayo. Welcome to Business News. Multinational oil giant Royal Dutch Shell says it will write down its investment in the controversial Malabu OPL 245 offshore field in Nigeria, which it bought alongside Italian energy company Eni in 2011. Well, this comes after the company recorded losses in its upstream division, including a post-tax impairment charge of $4.65 billion, which is related to write-downs of the oil field and asset sales in North America and Brazil. The company also announced that its upstream division had losses of $6.7 billion after its production fell by 7% to 2.4 million barrels a day. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has extended the deadline by 1 week for filing of tax returns for companies under several categories in commemoration of the Eid celebration. In a statement released today, the FIRS mentioned that the extension commences from July the 31st to August the 7th for companies with December accounting year end to file their year 2020 annual income tax returns. Into the markets now. While Nigeria's stock market is closed today for the Muslim holiday, some of the world's major stock markets were in session but ended the day mostly in the red. Let's see some of the numbers. And that's it on Business News. It's back to Amarachi. Thanks, Bissy. Still ahead on the news at 10, U.S. President Donald Trump suggests postponement of November's presidential election, plus some more stories from our London studio and around the world in 5. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump has suggested the November presidential election be delayed, raising concern over mail-in voting he says could lead to fraud and inaccurate results. President Trump had in a series of tweets said universal mail-in voting would make the November polls the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history and a great embarrassment to the United States. Under the country's constitution, President Trump does not have the authority to postpone the election himself, and any delay would have to be approved by Congress, and the president does not have direct power over the two houses of Congress. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has defended a possible new array of lockdown measures after a reported record spike of over 700 coronavirus infections with 13 deaths across the country.
We have now been in this...
The majority of infections were in the state of Victoria, which has been under strict lockdown for around 3 weeks. Australia had previously prided itself on rapidly containing the initial COVID-19 outbreak, but the second wave that began in Victoria has forced Melbourne into lockdown and sparked outbreaks in other areas, including Sydney.
The further measures that are taken are certainly necessary. They will come at an impact to the economy, and we understand that. But equally, not containing these outbreaks will have that effect also.
Meanwhile, India has reported its biggest daily jump of over 52,000 new virus cases. This is the highest single-day spike in terms of fresh infections in the country so far.
For those who test positive.
Britain's Health Secretary Matt Hancock has said he is worried about a second wave of coronavirus infections in Europe and will not hesitate to bring more quarantine measures in, possibly within the next few days. In the US, protesters have clashed with security forces in Portland hours after Oregon's governor said federal tactical police had agreed to withdraw from the city. This footage shows tear gas and smoke screens being deployed, as well as armed agents in riot gear. The clashes come after Oregon Governor Kate Brown said US Vice President Mike Pence had agreed to a phased end to the deployment that has sparked a standoff between Republican President Donald Trump and Democratic mayors over the use of federal police in their cities. Meanwhile, NASA's Perseverance rover has successfully launched from Florida.
Release.
It will spend 7 months travelling to Mars before landing in Jezero crater near the planet's equator, where it will hunt for evidence of ancient life. Billions of years ago, when Mars was wetter, Jezero held a lake that could have supported primitive microbial organisms. The UAE and China have also launched Mars missions in recent weeks. Hong Kong authorities have disqualified 12 pro-democracy candidates from upcoming elections, deepening political tensions in the Chinese territory. Opposition legislators had hoped to obtain a majority in the Legislative Council in September's poll after Beijing's imposition of a highly controversial national security law. Among those barred are high-profile activists Joshua Wong and Lester Shum. The government said the candidates were not fit to run for office. The killer of one of Uganda's best-known mountain gorillas, Rafiki, has been jailed for 11 years. Felix Bayumakama has pleaded guilty to illegally entering a protected area and killing a gorilla. Bayumakama had previously said the gorilla attacked him and he had to kill Rafiki in self-defense. That's according to the Ugandan Wildlife Authority. Mountain gorillas are endangered with just over 1,000 in existence. Meanwhile, Ivory Coast's ruling RHDP party has officially nominated President Alassane Ouattara to seek re-election for a third term. Earlier this year, Ouattara spoke of paving the way for a new generation to lead. His prime minister and preferred successor, Amadou Gon Coulibaly, died of cardiac arrest earlier this month. The opposition has been against the possibility of the president serving a third term. Ivory Coast is due to hold elections on the 31st of October, and the Electoral Commission has promised a fair election. Zimbabwe has agreed to pay $3.5 billion in compensation to white farmers whose land was expropriated by the government to resettle black families 2 decades ago. Long-term bonds will be issued and the government will jointly approach international donors with the farmers to raise funding due to the lack of money. This compensation attempts to resolve one of the most divisive policies of the Mugabe era, when white farmers were evicted from their land to supposedly redress colonial land imbalances. Saudi Arabia's holy Kaaba in Mecca has been adorned with a new cover known as the Kiswa, marking the beginning of the annual Hajj pilgrimage. Normally costing almost 24 million Saudi riyals, or $6 million, the cover is externally made of 675 kilograms of pure black silk. This year's event has been limited to about 1,000 people from within Saudi Arabia due to coronavirus restrictions. And finally, Britain's Design Museum has reopened with an electronic music exhibition after months of closure due to the coronavirus lockdown. The exhibit will offer a feast for the eyes and ears through its immersive exploration of the history of electronic music. It is hoped that after months of living under restrictions, members of the public will now feel ready to venture out and provide a much-needed economic lifeline to the nation's cultural institutions. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Welcome to Sports News. Swiss prosecutors have launched legal proceedings against FIFA President Gianni Infantino in relation to an alleged secret meeting he held with the Swiss Attorney General Michael Lauber. Lauber last week offered to resign after a court said he covered up the meeting and lied to supervisors during an investigation by his office into corruption in FIFA. Both have denied any wrongdoing and are presumed innocent in Switzerland until legal proceedings are completed. The Tiger Center forward Michael Eric believes the appointment of Mike Brown as head coach of the national basketball team will make Nigeria a dangerous team to play against. The former Lakers coach agreed to terms to lead Nigeria to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics before it was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's it on Sports News. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks, Jeff. And the main news again, at least 5 people have been killed as multiple explosions rocked parts of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, today. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night and stay safe.